Hey, buddy. You in a good mood? So this here is Soda Pop. He's our quote-unquote actor for Rob the Heckling Cat. And we'll get back to why he's here in just a moment, but just keep in mind that Rob the Heckling Cat is a real living cat. Now, this information that I'm about to share with you, it come out in March. I wasn't aware of it until today. So some of you may not be aware of it as of yet either. And normally I stay out of these kind of political controversies, we'll say. But this one is important to us as artists uh, all across the board, whether it be visual artists like the paintings that we do on our channel, musical artists, literature artists, any kind of artist across the board, any kind of creator across the board. This applies to all of us. Um, so I wanted to go ahead and address it. We are doing things a little different today, mainly because I wanted to test out my new Honor desk mic. Probably didn't hear me very well. I believe it's a directional mic. I haven't really read the specs. I just wanted something other than my headset and the puppy dog there that I'm messing with. That's a one-off design that's available through our merch site. I'll put the link in the description, and we've already talked about the cup. But what we're addressing today is where AI stands in terms of copyright. And I've got two phones here. Um, I've got one with dim light so I can show you guys. And I got the one with the bright light so I can read it. But in general, we're going to be looking at copyright registration guidance, works containing material generated by artificial intelligence from the Federal Copyright Register. This is the document I'll be reading from. Now, I just want to read it. It addresses the copyright issue as far as AI in relation to traditional art. And when I say traditional art, like I said, we're talking all across the board, human-made art. And that doesn't mean that the art has to be 100% human-made. Okay, there's elements that can be used and the art still be claimed as made by a human and be copyrighted. But we'll start it with the preliminaries that are on all their documents. The agency writing this document is the U.S. Copyright Office of the Library of Congress. It's a statement of policy. In summary, the Copyright Office issues this statement of policy to clarify its practices for examining and registering works that contain material generated by the use of artificial intelligence technology. And this was released and published. This statement of policy is effective March 16th, 2023. So it was just made published, public, and official on March 16th. And they go into the preliminaries, of course. They go into the introduction phase, and then they get into the part that we're really interested in. I mean, they do tell us how certain cases led them to this decision. I'm not going to go into all that. They get into the meat of it, which is what's important to us. I'm trying to look at the camera as much as I can, but I'm not that good at reading far ahead of myself. And they go into the human authorship requirement. Okay. It's missing a little better so it's easier for me to read. In the office's view, that's the Federal Copyright Registration Office, in the office's view, it is well established that copyright can only protect material that is the product of human creativity. Most fundamentally, the term author, which is used in both the Constitution and the Copyright Act, excludes non-humans. The office's registration policies, and regulations reflect statutory and judicial guidance on this issue. Let me interrupt myself here real quick at this point. The reason I'm doing the reading portion of this is there are other creators out there that are talking about this. I haven't found very many, but there are other creators out there talking about this. But the ones that I saw talking about this, they're just hitting the highlights. They're not really getting into the meat of it and telling us everything that's actually important to us. Okay, so that's why I'm doing the reading portion. So now we continue on. In its leading case in authorship, the Supreme Court used language excluding non-humans, interpreting Congress's constitutional power to provide authors the exclusive right to their writings. It cites another case in Burrow-Giles Lithographic Company versus Cerrone. I hope I said those names right. A defendant accused of making unauthorized copies of a photograph argued that the expansion of copyright protection to photographs by Congress was unconstitutional because a photograph is not a writing nor a production of an author, but instead created by a camera. The court disagreed, holding that there was no doubt the Constitution's copyright clause permitted photographs to be subject to copyright, so far as they are representatives of original intellectual concepts of the author. So that basically outlines that you can use mechanical and software assistance, but it has to be your work. The court defined an author as he whom anything owes its origin, originator, maker, one who completes a work of science or literature. It repeatedly referred to such authors as human, describing authors as a class of persons, and a copyright as the exclusive right of a man to the production of his own genius or intellect. Now, obviously, they use the words he and man and his in general terms. They're not excluding women. That's just general terminology. Okay. Let's see. Federal appellate courts have reached a similar conclusion when interpreting the text of the Copyright Act, which provides copyright protection for only works of authorship. The Ninth Circuit Court has held that a book containing words authored by non-human spiritual beings can only qualify for a copyright protection if there is human selection and arrangement of the revelations. So in other words, until this was amended with this particular case, for example, the Bible couldn't be copyrighted until it was proven that even though it was spiritually inspired, it was written by humans. And if you ever actually read the Bible, whether you believe it or not, you do know that it was written by humans, and it does say that it was inspired by God. It doesn't say that it was written by God. It said it was inspired by God. It was God's words, but it doesn't say God wrote those words. But that's getting off track. In another case, it held that a monkey cannot register a copyright in photos it captures with a camera because the Copyright Act refers to an author's children, widow, grandchildren, and widower, terms that all imply humanity and necessarily exclude animals. So they're saying your dog's not going to paint a painting, and you're going to get it copyrighted. You're not going to get a painting copyrighted on behalf of your dog. It's basically what they're saying. Now, with that said, this painting back here is not my work. It is the work of Jasmine, which, by the way, she is with us. She's monitoring sound for us today. But this work is not my work. It's Jasmine's work. I cannot copyright it. I cannot claim copyright on this work. Not only has she done the officially recognized artist copyright and signed it, but knowing, and now you guys know, that I did not create this work, I cannot copyright it. But I have done this, and it is legal. I can copyright this work on behalf of Jasmine because she is a minor. I can copyright this work as not the author. This work right here, I can copyright it as not the author, listing Jasmine as the author, and copyright it on her behalf. But she can't copyright it just because she's a minor. I can't copyright it because right there it proves that I did not do that. But I can copyright a minor's work on their behalf as a representative. Relying on these cases, among others, the office's existing registration guidance has long required that works be the product of human authorship. In the 1973 edition of the office's Compendium of Copyright Office Practices, the office warned that it would not register materials that did not owe their origin to a human agent. Excuse me, I'm not exactly great at reading out loud. I read to myself, it sounds like I'm talking to you right now. Reading to you, you can tell. Excuse me. The second edition of the compendium, published in 1984, explained that the term authorship implies that for a work to be copyrightable, it must owe its origins to a human being, and in the current edition of the compendium, the office states that to qualify as a work of authorship, a work must be created by a human being, and that it will not register works produced by a machine or mere mechanical processes that incorporates randomly or automatically that operates, randomly or automatically without creative input or intervention from a human author. And then it goes on into the application of human authorship. And see, I'm just going to find the highlights. There's a couple of highlights I want to point out in this section. As the agency overseeing the copyright registration system, the office, the Federal Copyright Registration Office, has extensive experience in evaluating works submitted for registration that contain human authorship combined with uncopyrightable material, including material generated by or with the assistance of technology. It begins by asking whether the work is basically one of human authorship, with the computer or other device merely being an assisting instrument, or whether the traditional elements of authorship in the work, literary, artistic, or musical expressions, or elements of selection, arrangement, etc., were actually conceived and executed by not by man, but by a machine. Okay, so right there, that was one of the highlights I wanted to hit. I didn't just randomly start reading, but right there that says that you can use AI in your works as a tool. There has to be a human hand applied to it somewhere along the line. So even if you're creating work entirely in Photoshop or whatever art program you're using on your computer, whatever software you're using for whatever purpose you're using it, there has to be human intervention that's obvious, basically, for you to be able to use it and get it copyrighted. And the worst, now it gets right down to the nitty gritty and actually says AI. In the case of works containing AI-generated material, the office will consider whether the AI contributions are the result of mechanical reproduction or instead of the author's own original mental conception to which the author gave visible form. So in other words, I'm not going to come up here on my computer and pull up some AI software, and I'm not even going to name any AI software, but pull up some random AI software, whether it be downloaded on my computer, or online. I'm not going to go into an AI generation program and type in golden yellow cat that looks like he wants to kill you, but has a lot of knowledge about art, tells art history stories, and leave it at that. I'm not going to copyright that. That's what that's saying. Let's see. I have to be involved in the process every step of the way. And so I can use AI elements, using AI as a tool to create a portion of that animation that I typed into the AI generator. But I can't type that prompt for an animation into the AI generator and do nothing else and copyright that. I have to be involved in the process. The answer will depend on the circumstances, particularly how the AI tool operates. And it even says AI tool. The terminology AI tool is in this document. And how it was used to create the final work. This is, and it does say it's a case-by-case inquiry. But we're getting down to what the real controversy has been all about. Let's see. However, a work containing AI-generated material will also contain sufficient human authorship to support a copyright claim. For example, a human may select or arrange AI-generated material in a sufficiently creative way that the resulting work as a whole constitutes an original work of authorship. So, again, they're reinforcing that I have to be involved in creating that animation of my yellow cat that looks like he'd rather eat you than say hello to you, that tells art history stories. I have to be involved in that process, even if I use AI as a tool to get me started. That's all I can use the AI for, is a tool. I can't completely 100% generate my animation from AI. Okay. Or an artist may modify material originally generated by AI technology to such a degree that the modifications meet the standard for copyright protection. In these cases, copyright will only protect the human-authored aspects of the work, which are independent of and do not affect the copyright status of AI-generated material itself. So now they're saying even if I use AI as a tool to create this animation of my yellow, ornery, art history buff cat, I can't copyright what the aspects that I used that were generated by the AI generator. So, and they go ahead and they outline directly addressing any confusion that there may be about this, because obviously not everybody's going to interpret it the way I am. So they go ahead and address that. There's people out there that are going to say, so what, I can't use AI at all? No. Keep listening. This policy does not mean that technological tools cannot be a part of the creative process. Authors have long used such tools to create their works or to recast, transform, or adapt their expressive authorship. For example, a visual artist who uses Adobe Photoshop to edit an image remains the author of the modified image. As a music artist may use effects such as guitar pedals when creating a sound recording. In each case, what matters is the extent to which the human had creative control over the work's expression and actually formed the traditional elements of authorship. So that's basically saying use whatever tools you want to create whatever you're creating, but there has to be enough of your own hand involved in creating that work in order for you to copyright it. So, excuse me again, getting back to the beginning of this video, I introduced Soda Pop and told you that he's the quote-unquote actor for Rob the Heckling Cat. Okay, this document that we just skimmed through to get not the main body and the important highlights. This document says that my cat, my photograph, my voice, my input adding audio effects, my placement of the key points for the animation, all that I can claim copyright on. I can even claim copyright on my character. So I can claim copyright on Rob the Cat, even though I use, it's not called AI, but it is. This actually is an AI program. I use an AI program to, once I set those anchor points for the animation and input my own voice to create the animation. That's where the AI is. The AI is creating the actual animation, but every element of the animation is mine. I can copyright it. I can copyright each individual element. What I can't copyright is the animation itself. So I can take that same clip and put that same, and put my own voice with that same set of words on the still that I loaded into my AI program and load on my audio effects, and I can completely copyright that. But as soon as I add that AI animation aspect to it, that part I can't copyright. And so this is a big win for us traditional artists, because that's telling the people that want to call themselves artists that literally just type into the computer brown and tan puppy dog wearing a black shirt with a sunset scene, with a hand painted sunset scene on his t-shirt. People that literally just type that into an AI program and take what that program generates and publish it as their own work. They can do that all they want. Nobody's going to say anything. The reason nobody's going to say anything is because that work cannot be copyrighted. Somebody else can type in that same prompt, get that exact same picture, publish that exact same picture, and the person that did it the first time has no ground to stand on because they did nothing to alter it. But if I type in brown and tan puppy dog wearing a black t-shirt and a hand-painted sunset scene on the t-shirt, and it comes out a little wonky, and I put my own, which I actually did do to have this created, but I put my own hand-painted sunset scene on it, and change, maybe I don't like his ears, or I don't like his paws or something, and I change those aspects enough, I can copyright what I did to change that AI generated art, but the aspects that are still generated by the AI. So I mean, we're talking even as minute as I changed everything but his eyes. I can't copyright his eyes. Okay. I can't type in, this is where it's going to get real confusing. But we'll go back to Rob the Heckling Cat here. I can take my concept, my character concept, to say Pixar. And I can say, look, I can throw some general terms at them and let them run like you would with an artist on a painting. I can go to Pixar and say, look, I need a character that resembles a certain orange lasagna loving cat, but I want him to be a lighter in color. I want him to be more realistic. I don't want him to look like a plush doll. And I want him to have a little bit of an attitude, but he's intelligent in the art community, in the individual arts community, and he has a sense of humor and he tells jokes. And I can let Pixar run and do whatever they want with that character. And if Pixar wants, they can give me credit on the copyright as the concept creator. You know, I gave them the idea and gave them some general guidelines, but everything else is all their work. You know, and all their people and their software, you know, all their humans and their software, everything that Pixar does, Pixar can claim copyright on it. Because I didn't do it, they did. If they want to, they can give me credit as the concept creator. But when it comes to taking the same thing and giving an AI program that exact same prompt, and they create exactly the same thing Pixar would have created for me, but I decided not to use them. I decided to go AI. I I can't copyright any of it. Nobody can. Matter of fact, just like with Pixar, I can't copyright the character. I can get credit for helping them to create the character, but I can't copyright the character. They created a character. Well, that's the same with AI. I give AI prompts to create a character for me. I can't even copyright that character. There's no way I can even copyright the character. Even if I change things, I cannot copyright a character that was generated by AI. Just like I can't copyright a character that's in public domain. Same concept. So it's a big win for us traditional artists. We're not going to get, when it comes to collectors and those looking for art, there's going to be a long-term investment and possibly gain value. The traditional artist isn't going anywhere because nothing that AI does can be copyrighted. And if it can't be copyrighted, it's not going to gain value. It's not going to sustain. If it does gain value, it's not going to sustain value. As soon as it becomes not popular anymore, no value. Whereas we'll go to some of the greats in the art community, specifically where we are, where most of you probably are being on my channel, the painting community. Monet's art, as old as it is, and being only popular with collectors and artists, is still retaining and gaining value. The AI art, as this article is written, it's because if the copyright system existed and if Monet was in America, you know, or if Monet had the opportunity to copyright, we don't know, but you know, we'll assume if the copyright system existed in his area while he was alive and creating art, he could have copyrighted that art. I think at this point, at least in America, it's copyrighted Monet by default. But, you know, by common knowledge, almost like what you would call a common welfare marriage. Not all states recognize those, but I'm just throwing that out there. So by common knowledge, by common welfare, I believe Monet classifies as copyrighted. But anyway, if all those opportunities were available to Monet, he could have copyrighted his art. And because of that possibility that it could have been done, his art, once it gains value, it retains value. And the longer it's around, the more value it gains. And the rarer his art gets, the more value the remaining art gains, that kind of thing. We know how the process works. That's not going to happen with AI. Because as it stands right now, anything solely generated by AI can't be copyrighted. And in today's world, unlike in Monet's world, in today's world, if it can't be copyrighted, it's not going to gain value. So that's good news for us. The collectors out there, the people that are going to buy our art for potential future investment, for potential future gains from ownership of our art, they're not going to go anywhere because they want art that has that potential to gain and retain and gain and gain and gain and gain as an investment. Whereas somebody might buy a piece of AI art just to satisfy somebody's overinflated ego so they can post it on social media because they like it. They might do that, but they know that if they want a true investment, even including NFTs, and I'm not going to go into that, but even including NFTs, collectors, true collectors that are looking for investment potential, they know when they get into digital art that, especially when it's AI digital art, but even our own digital art. And when I mean digital art is when we take a picture of this painting and we post it online, it becomes digital art. Okay, we still have the original hand painted piece that's obviously going to retain more value, but digital art, it's going to, if and when the NFT fad fades, all the value for that digital art is gone. Um, and if and when the popularity of the subject of our art fades, all the value of that digital piece is gone. But the hard copy, the original, the masterpiece, a lot of people get confused on that term. Masterpiece means the original, the first, the master. The masterpiece is going to continue to gain value because no matter what happens on the internet or in popularity, as long as that piece exists, it exists. The digital copies of it may fade away, but that piece, until it gets destroyed, still exists. So that masterpiece is still going to gain value. And that's where we have an advantage as traditional artists. So just something to chew on, hopefully iron out some of the misconceptions of the controversy over AI art and copyright. As it stands right now, anything solely created by AI and any aspect of human interaction artwork completely across the board, whether it be written, visual, audio, audible, whatever, those AI aspects or those AI works as it stands right now, according to the Federal Copyright Registry, cannot be copyrighted. So I hope that answers some questions for most of you.